Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Who here has a felony? Just kidding. No, that's a bad question. I just wanted to see if anybody would respond to that, because we do ask a lot of questions here. By the way, I loved that exercise. Ricky likes apple pie. And Ricky likes to put cheese on his apple pie. Anybody else ever put cheese on their apple pie? Yes? Is that? So Ricky's from Georgia. Is that a southern thing? Okay. Cheddar cheese, Ricky? Cheddar cheese. Okay. Love it. Okay, a little bit about me. I don't know many things. I'm not that smart of a guy. But that's played into, it's been actually kind of beneficial in some ways. In my past, I was working at Comcast, so multi-billion-dollar company. Who here works for a company with over 10,000 employees? Anybody? Okay, we got a few. It gets crazier and crazier as it gets bigger and bigger. And I kind of got burned out, but I've been about 10 years in customer success or account management, whatever you want to call it. I then got sick of it and wanted to go to a startup. So I had met some goals in my life and wanted to go to a startup, which became the most difficult job I've ever had and way more work than I thought it was going to be. Anybody experience something similar? Yeah? Yes. Way more work, and you're doing way more things and wearing way more hats. So luckily we exited for $100 million, and we were sold to WeWork. Anybody ever seen We Crashed? It was a fascinating experience. Yes, we rented out several concert halls and hired Red Hot Chili Peppers and spent a lot of money on a lot of things that didn't do much, like didn't move the needle a ton. But there was this hype around it that helped us to recruit like crazy. And when I first started there in customer success, not when I first started, when we were acquired, I was immediately told, go hire 40 people. And when I asked the question why, they said, we're going to get so big we need it. Like, where the metrics doesn't matter. So, I started hiring. I hired in London. I hired, about to send a guy to Australia to start up an office in Australia. All of that fell through. We ended up hiring the guy in London. We ended up hiring a guy in New York, hiring a girl in San Francisco. And then the rest of that movie, the end of that movie kind of started to happen. So I started to get interested in another company because I was not loving that environment anymore. Any attorneys for WeWork in the building right now? Alex, we good? Okay. Then I went to a company called 650. 650 is owned by Wilson Sonsini. It's a massive law firm out of Palo Alto. In fact, they're the attorneys for Twitter, and in fact, they're negotiating the whole Twitter deal with Elon Musk right now. So they started a software company, and that's what I was doing. I then went to a company called Wooly, where I am today, and I just met some of our kind of competitors. Raise your hands. They're good friends now. We're probably going to merge, probably going to partner. We don't know. We'll see. But I was asking them some questions, too, about what they were doing before customer success. Or, I know you're not exactly customer success, but we'll get to that. So, as you can see, I don't look like this anymore. I don't have hair. In fact, this is my LinkedIn. So the older I get, the younger my LinkedIn picture profile gets. So that's me if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. I really like it. I'd like to talk to a lot of customer success people. Please connect and let's share some valuable insights. Okay, so the 4 fun things, I'll call them fun. Who are you looking for in customer success? Where can you find them, or where have you historically found them? What you'll need to know if you hire these people that I'm talking about or that I'm going to reference, and how do you keep your customer success managers? So first, who are we looking for? Does anybody have any attributes they look for in a customer success person? Want to throw any out? Yeah. Curious? Communication, thick skin? Why? Everybody loves, like they're never the brunt, they don't ever take the brunt of the business's problems. What else? Motivated. Say that again? Motivated. Empathy. Do some of these work? Yeah, some of those were mentioned. A friend. Does anybody ever think of themselves as a friend of the customer? Now remind me, who here are individual contributors in customer success? Okay, love it. Do you feel like you're a friend, or do you feel like they're friends of yours? Yes, I love that. In all honesty, I feel this way towards my clients, and it causes me a lot of pain and anguish too, because sometimes they churn, and it really hurts. It's like a gut punch. And the people that I hire, I actually like that. I want them to feel that, even though it's sad, because I want them to care enough that they're going to be doing something to mitigate the problems that they're having. Because does anybody have a company here that doesn't have any issues at all? None? Yeah, it just happens, right? So these are the type of individuals we're looking for. Now, the secret candidate number one, this is like a bad clickbait lead-in. Secret strategy for hiring a candidate. I look at this organization, they have incredibly high turnover. They have pressure to behave very badly. Anybody know who I'm talking about yet? Lacking long-term relationships. And they're burned out sometimes. They feel like they're missing something. Salespeople. And we use that as a bad word sometimes, but I love my salespeople. They're incredible. And some of them are completely burned out and they hate sales. They hate it. They don't like that it's a quick transactional sale. They don't like the pressure of having to get a quota. And every organization like customer success is different, obviously, with different reasons and different goals. But some of them are burned out and they want these long-term relationships. It's not fulfilling to them, sales. For some people it is. For some people they crush it in sales. So some of the attributes that they have, great communicators, incredible follow-up, a lot of discernment, especially during a negotiation. I've done a couple of talks actually with this organization, and one of the things we talked about are some of the sales attributes we should try to develop in customer success. Sales attributes that are not trying to force somebody to do something or be a sneaky person, but attributes like discernment and attributes like follow-up that are just great skills that translate very well. So I have robbed sales organizations multiple times to get incredible CSMs. And they end up being very fulfilled and they never want to leave it. They're sick of that world, they want to leave it behind, and they get anybody actually come from sales? I know one person on the panel did, so quite a few of you. Does that ring true? Is customer success more fulfilling? Yes. You didn't nod your head. I noticed that. She's very unfulfilled. We need to do something here. Just kidding. Secret candidate number two. We'll get back to sales stuff in a minute. High turnover. Career line of sight, almost zero. It's very sad. No long-term relationships. A lot of them are very overqualified. And they desperately want to prove themselves. Support people. Anybody come from support? Yeah? A few. The last 3 people I hired were support people that had no customer success background and are absolute rock stars. They all 3 were way overqualified. One of them was a social worker that got into tech, into support because it's the only thing that she could get into quickly. The other one was a support person at a company where she desperately wanted to get into customer success and there was no line of sight, no bridge to get her into that position. They didn't have a program established for that. Those people are so easy to steal and so incredible that I will hire them all day long. Now, there are some issues there. Not really necessarily big issues, and I'll say why. But a lot of support people that want to prove themselves, that are overqualified, that are doing it just to get a foot in the door, they have a ton of patience and empathy. Thick skin, like you wouldn't believe. Active listeners, because they have to understand what's happening. Time management. Sometimes they're in a miserable support group where they're like, what's your handle time? How many seconds did it take to get off of this call and fix that issue? And they don't want that. I wouldn't want that. It's terrible. Does anybody think that's fun? It's not fun. But they want to desperately want to prove themselves. And they will take on any task. And I love hiring them. And they're really easy to steal because you're going to give them a better life. I say steal, but it's true. There are a lot of organizations that have a lot of good people that are overqualified in their support groups, and they're undervalued. Okay. Here are the things, though. Sometimes it's a very blank canvas, but that's a good thing. They don't have a customer success background. I've hired customer success people, and being not that smart of a guy, they would try to push me in different directions and tell me how to do customer success because this is how they did it at X company or Y company. And it's really hard to do that. And sometimes they end up coming in very overconfident and not having the pliability that you kind of wish they would have in a different position. Has anybody worked at multiple organizations where they were a customer success person at multiple organizations? Okay. How different was it from one organization to another, the whole motion?
A little bit. They were both startups, so it's
okay.
its own beast on its own.
Yeah. Was yours very different? Okay. Very, very, very different. No customer success group that I've developed or brought up from nothing has been the same. Always different KPIs. Always different success metrics. So there's no one size fits all in customer success. That's one of the challenges of the industry, honestly. And that's why we have to be so adaptable to every changing necessity that's out there. Luckily, they don't have any preconceived notions of process. This is great if you're dumb, because they don't know how dumb you are. And they think, wow, he's so smart. Look at all the things he knows. For some, this is a huge step. Coming out of support, this is a massive career move. They want out of that. It's an incredible upward momentum for them and a lift, and they're over the moon to prove themselves, and they'll work incredibly hard. For some sales, it's a little bit different. It looks like more of a lateral move. Some people think it's a demotion, and it's not. We all know that. We all know it's a different skill set with some combinations and overlap. So, you're rescuing them from misery. You'll be their greatest hero. There is a learning curve. Just some general CS 101. So, a lot of us are in companies where we might not have a large support group to pull from or a sales group to pull from. That's where LinkedIn becomes a really good friend. And you can find a lot of people and in your networks of people that are really smart, that are posting good things, and you look at their title and they're in customer support or tech support. That's how I found a lot of people. There are some soft skills that they have, but you might need to help develop. Also, they bring a lot of fresh perspectives. Anybody, all the CS leaders, raise your hand again. How many of you also manage, we asked this before, how many of you also manage support or tech support? So a decent few of you. So the perspectives that I get from these different individuals, a whole industry of knowledge that they're bringing over and saying, yeah, here's how we did this. This is the software we used. It worked really well this way, without you having to come up with everything on your own. So great perspectives. Also, the overlap of sales. Bringing a salesperson in is so incredibly helpful because they have seen it, and sometimes we think that salesperson is selling something that we don't have. They're selling vaporware. And they probably are sometimes, right? Because you just want to get that sale. But Bringing that salesperson in can communicate back and be the liaison, and I've used this, be the liaison to that group and say, actually, this is why they're saying it, this is why we think this way, let's correct it. And we move upstream and help correct that. So a lot of great organizational shift and also organizational vision that you can see inside of what the thoughts are of that group. If you don't have a great connection with them, that can be a bridge. There can be some awkward conversations with organization leaders if you keep stealing their people, if you have a group that's big enough to do that, but you can get over that. Okay. Career development is the best way, and now this is the third section about how do we keep these people. So, it's not to brag, but 95% of all of the individuals that have worked for me have stayed in customer success and gone up into management or stayed on the team. And it's 100% based on, in my opinion, this one-on-one template. So every meeting I have with my CSMs and my support people, and this is for all of the individual contributors out there, if you don't have something happening like this, ask for it. We talk about any outstanding items that we need to discuss. And then we have 3 sections. What are your short-term career goals? This is employee-led. This is not you drilling them about their KPIs and metrics. What are your short-term career goals? Even if it's outside of customer success. I always put that caveat. I don't care if it's in marketing, I don't care if it's in sales. What are your short-term career goals? What are your medium-term and what are your long-term? So you get all kinds of great answers. I want to be in marketing eventually. I want to be in product eventually. I want to start my own company. Great. We'll put that in long-term or medium-term. Short-term is typically focused on what you're doing in your role today and helping them to become the best customer success or tech support person they can be. Medium-term, maybe it's learning other areas of the business. Long-term, who knows what it could be. I don't personally have a long-term myself. And I always preface this that you don't have to have a long-term. Maybe you have no idea. I went to film school. Did anybody else go to film school? There you go. That's why we're in customer success, right? It was always my dream, and I had to get that film degree to become the greatest customer success manager I could be. So, we didn't necessarily plan to do this. We didn't necessarily plan a long-term goal. But our lives led in a direction that took us to where we are today, and it's great. I'm very happy. That long-term goal may not come to fruition, or you may not even discuss it. But because they see that you are helping them to achieve their short-term and medium-term goals, they are willing to do and stay anything you ask them to do. Get them involved with other departments. Have them be the liaison and go to meetings with the sales org or with the product team and report back to the CS team. That way you understand what the other departments are doing. It's exposing them to different areas of the company and give them projects. Like all of the projects you can possibly give them that don't impact their ability to do their own job, but let them experience things. I've had a lot of people that thought they wanted to manage people, and I will be their employee at times on different projects, and I'll let them lead the team in an area like you're gonna run onboarding. I want you to revamp the entire onboarding process. They take it, they manage me, they manage some other members of the team, and they absolutely hate it. Not because I'm a bad employee, but they just don't want to manage people. They thought they did, and now they don't. And that's totally fine. They'll have a different career path, and they got exposed to that ability, or that exposed them to that management to a degree. But it can change people's perspectives a lot, and you can get a lot more out of them if they feel like they're getting out of that job what they are needing to get out of it. It's not always money. In my opinion, it's either you have to make as much as you possibly can, or you have to be learning something in any role. If you're not learning, or you're not making an insane amount of money, it's not worth being in that job, in my opinion. Okay, here's a fun bonus. Okay, so project management. This is what I was talking about. Revamping the onboarding process, updating our outreach templates, liaise between CS and product, attend sales meetings, whatever it is, let them have that opportunity to shine. And also, it takes a lot of work off of your plate. If you can give them the ability to do this and the time to do this, who here has a bunch of projects on their plate and just never get to them, and they're just heads down in problems all day? It's almost all of us. If you just grab Libby or Riley on my teams and say, can you please do this? It's going to give them experience, and it's going to give them the opportunity to understand and see some of the leadership attributes that they'll need to have in order to deal with some of these projects, and it takes a lot of weight off of you. Some people like to hold it all, but if you're not that smart like me, they'll do a better job anyway, and you can take all the credit. And it's incredible. Do you feel me there? So give them some projects, career development. It will keep people involved. It'll keep people engaged, I promise. Volunteer as tribute. Thank you. I can't remember the whistle. Anybody can do the whistle? Thank you very much. So, if you are an individual contributor, volunteer as tribute for your neighborhood or district or whatever you call it. I can't remember. Thank you. If there's something that needs done, do it. Take it over. Ask them, can I take that project over? It will be a feather in your cap, and you will make their life a lot easier. My brother told me before I started my career, he said, my number one job is to make my manager look as good as they possibly can, and that ultimately that leads to a lot of success in your career. It helps, it makes like everything that has to funnel through you and through your manager, it's going to help you in your career, and it's going to help the department succeed. Okay, so in summary, who are we looking for? Determine what skill sets they need, or what you need, sorry, because right now I need a different set of skills than I had 2 companies ago. A little bit different. Some overlap, but some differences. Where can you find them? Look for potential, not experience. And I hate saying this, but I rarely look at education. I look for weird experience they've had. Like, I hired a high school teacher, a high school history teacher, and he became it was a partner success role. And he was incredible. And he was a storyteller, and he knew how to teach history. And that's what we needed in that role, and he did a great job. There are people out there that want a foot in the door, that if you gave them a little effort and put a little effort into them, they will become or can become your best representatives. So, the pros outweigh the cons in my opinion. What you'll need to do. There are some additional efforts and trainings you'll probably need to put in. But honestly, these efforts and trainings are things that we should be doing on a cadence anyway. Like running through customer success 101 trainings on a frequency and having team members and CS managers actually help run those training programs. But every time you get a new hire, train them in those areas, and it's going to help train everybody. So how to keep them? Let them spread their wings. Set some short, medium, and long-term goals with them. Let them set it. Tell them that this is their time to discuss their career. And I do this at least once a month that's a focus on their career. And I give them projects so that they can actually work on those areas. Also, introduce them to people that might be in a different field. If they're wanting to learn about product, get them in meetings with the product team. It's just going to help your team learn and understand better what's happening within the company. Where do we go from here? I have no idea. Do we have any questions, though?
So our first question is, how do you reconcile the typical difference in OTE between sales roles versus CS roles when hiring from sales?
That's a good question. So coming from sales myself, I didn't say that. You'll have an OTE, and that OTE will be really high. And the reality is, 80% of those individuals are not making OTE. They're not. Not even close. 80%. In SaaS, and I'm sorry to speak to SaaS, that's my background, around 80% are not hitting OTE. Therefore, they are making about what a salary would be for a customer success manager on a lot of, in a lot of occasions. It's true, and I've seen that, and I've hired from there. So the reconciliation of that is, One, are they completely miserable and don't care to take a $10,000 hit? Two, are they hitting OTE? Probably not, unless they're in that 20 percentile from statistics. And then if they can be happier and more fulfilled in that role, is it worth it to them? You can be real with them, but you'll find that they're willing to accept that and they're happy to accept that because it's not as big of a difference as you might think. So.
Awesome, thanks for that. And then how often are you having career development focused one-on-ones with each of your ICs?
At least once a month. I have one-on-ones with everybody once per week. Usually we're talking about work, we're talking about metrics, and talking about individual customers and client needs. And at least once a month, we're focusing on their career.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And then what are your suggestions for creating compelling career frameworks? Oh, that one got...
Oh, did I change that?
No, I think it just got relegated to the votes to encourage progression internally and help with people retention.
That's a great question. Let's see. Let me read it again. What are your suggestions for creating compelling career framework to encourage progression internally and help people with retention? So my suggestion is find out what they are interested in and find out what the needs of the organization is. So a lot of times I'll find out we have a need in product, for example. If this person has an interest in it, if this person has the skill set, you can get them ready for that role. You can get them ready to understand it and learn about it. And that can definitely lead to internal hires. So I have had people move over into different positions that they technically weren't qualified for because they could definitely do it eventually. By the way, I didn't even say what I did. I work for a company called Wooly, and we manage ambassador marketing programs for companies like Solomon, Atomic, On Running, list goes on, but ambassador programs at scale where you can help manage your ambassadors, have them get metrics on their posts and how many dollars of revenue that they're generating on your behalf. But any other questions we want to touch on?
Yeah, you want to hit these last two?
Yeah, so have you experienced employees becoming too focused on career goals? Yeah, that's why we don't bring it up in every one-on-one. That's a good question. So if you don't want to paint too much of a vision like, I'm going to get you into this position and everything else is going to fall apart. Because if they're a valuable employee, they want to continue to be seen and perceived as being valuable. If they're falling apart because they're so focused on that, nobody's going to want to work with them. So keeping that in mind and making sure that they're understanding that you're going to help them you're going to put every opportunity in their path to learn what they want to learn, to get them to where they want to be, but they need to focus and do a good job where they are. It's like anybody watch basketball, National Basketball Association, anyone?
Heard of it.
It's like going into a contract year, and then after they get the contract, it falls apart for some. But yeah, they need to be thinking they're in a contract year right now, and if they're not performing, nobody's going to want to hire them in a different department. You're just taking over a problem. So keeping that very clear is important.
Quick follow-up question to that. I'm curious, how transparent are you when it comes to timelines around promotions? So say, for example, you're thinking of promoting someone 2 quarters out. How transparent are you about that?
Personally, I am very one of the only people I've lost as a CSM, I was transparent, and it was because of that transparency. And I didn't want to keep stringing him along, but he said, when can I be a customer success manager, like managing a team or managing a department? And so I drew it up on the board. I probably overshare, honestly, like things happening at the higher level with fundraising and everything. But if you're not sharing this with them and helping them to feel part of what's happening, you're doing a disservice to them, I think. The clarity that I gave this individual was, okay, here is our hiring goal. It's based on this revenue. We will be hiring this many people based on this revenue if we hit this revenue and this number of clients. At this point, hopefully we're going to hit that. That's 7 months down the road is that number that we'll need another manager over another team. So we're looking at 7 months to hire that role. And then you will be one of the people that we interview for that role. But it's not a guarantee you'll get that, and he ended up leaving. And it was fine. But he understood, and in return, when he looked for another job, because of that transparency, he told me, I'm looking for another job. We worked together, got the hardest work he's ever done for me in those last 2 months, and the transition was amazing. It wasn't a shock to either of us. It was great.
Yeah, and I think that one's particularly interesting just because promotions to manager tend to be these conversations where it's like, how long is a piece of string, right? Like you have no idea. There's just so many dependencies, so I appreciate you walking through that one.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's all we have time for right now.
Okay.
But
Thanks,
let's-
everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks, man.